Welcome to Hoops and Headsets. We are back with episode 11 and day 3 of our World Cup preview. Today, Group C, joined once again by Shona. We're going to give our thoughts on each of the 4 teams in Group C, and I've picked out a few questions for us to kind of get our teeth into. Group C, definitely one of the more interesting ones for me. My first question focuses in on what would be considered probably the 2 favourites for the group. So Shona, are Belgium or Australia your outright favourites for this group? And do you think either of them could go on to win it all?
Yes, and yes.
Okay, next question.
Yeah, I think Belgium could be a favorite. I think Australia could be a favorite. And I think both teams could win it. You look at Belgium and I mean, they have Emma Messiman. She's one of the best players in the world, has been consistently for a few years now. She's going to go down in history in women's basketball when she does decide to retire. I think there's still a lot of basketball left in her, so we get to benefit that. But you always seem like Belgium overperform, kind of. They were points away from a medal at the Olympics, their Eurobasket win last year, their 4th place finish at a World Cup. There's just so much that they do year after year where you're like, but no, they still have this same group. And for the most part, that group is pretty healthy. Emma took the summer again away from the WNBA. So she's going to be ready, healthy. She's took time off. She's also worked on her craft because that's what superstars do. I know that Belgium have had one of the longer training camps, I would say, heading into this World Cup. And you have some exciting younger players, I think, who might play some more minutes in Becky Massey, especially.
Yeah.
I still question their bench and, can their bench help ease some of the load off the starters? But the starters always ball out and they do it consistently throughout a tournament. So one of the favorites, absolutely. Australia. I love watching Australia. Ezzy Magbagor is healthy. She obviously had that injury that she suffered in March at the qualification tournament. She's back. She's been playing for a little while now in the WNBA. Sammy Whitcomb missed a bunch at the beginning of the season. She is only just back now, has been for the last couple weeks, where I think Sammy Whitcomb plays some of her best basketball when she plays for Australia. She's so fun to
definitely
watch. Again, can either of those teams knock off the USA? I don't think so. But they are one of the favorites, in my opinion. Both of them are.
It's super interesting. So I look at the Belgium roster and it's stable. It's what you expect. The same names that have been around. You look at the FIBA socials and they're always posting pictures of either Julie Allemont or Van Loo with Messiman when they were kids and all of this kind of stuff. We keep seeing all those images, right? So they are going to be one of the best teams in the tournament, and that's what's won them tournaments. Yes, they are phenomenal players, but the fact that they know each other so well is what's taken them to the next level and won them Euro baskets. With Australia, the bit that interests me, and I think where they get a bit of their superpower, is they are the closest American team that is in America, if that makes sense. They play basketball far more in an American style. It's almost like their wildlife ecosystem, right? They're so far removed from everyone else that they've developed their own way of playing, and it's far more Americanized. You look at the NBL, the WNBL, it's clearly trying to replicate American leagues in the way it's coached, the way it's played. There's a lot of crossover from coaching perspectives and player perspectives, and it just feels like that's one of their superpowers, because they do go up against European teams who not struggle, but have to adapt to play against them because they're not used to it. Most of the time, obviously, because of the way the calendar plays out outside of Olympics and World Cups, You don't play people outside of your continent.
Yeah.
And France playing Spain or Italy or Greece or whatever, you kind of know because it's a European style of game. And I think that's one of Australia's superpowers, and what helps them get to latter stages that other teams just aren't used to it and they struggle to deal with them. The one thing I would say is, do they lack that depth of superstar potentially? Are there injury question marks or recovery question marks over them? I think there potentially is as well. And I think that's what, for me, tips Belgium maybe to be the favourites in this group, but you wouldn't be surprised either way. You wouldn't be amazed if either Belgium or Australia pick up, because let's be honest, it probably is going to come down to that game, the Belgium-Australia game. Whoever wins that is likely to walk away with top spot in the group. And obviously, that's a huge prize because it means you miss the qualification for the quarterfinals game. So it saves you 40 minutes out of your legs. And for both of these teams, they're going to lean on their superstars quite heavily. So if you can save 30, 35 minutes of Emma's legs or Sammy's legs for Australia, that's a benefit as you get latter in the competition as well. If you were to pick one, though, where are you putting them? If you did have to say right now, looking at it as it is it Belgium or Australia that you think will come down to winning that game? Do you think where are you thinking that one's going?
So that game, the Belgium versus Australia, is on the last group phase day. That's
a fun one, right?
That one will have a lot of weight. Absolutely. I just been covering.
Is that one that you've got? Or is it in the other arena? It's in yours, I think. I think it'll be in yours.
It's in the Berlin arena.
Yeah. So that's nice. First one of the day as well. That'll be a fun one, right?
Yeah. I have a lot of respect for Australia and what they have done and the kind of players that they have produced time and time again. Sandy Brondello's generation with them, but also, before Tom, he coached them for a long time as well. I think it was in 2012 or 2016 Olympics. Yeah. So it's just you have to respect Australia, the way that they play. I always think they're one of the strongest, the most fittest countries to go up against. And, you look back in the Lauren Jacksons, the Penny Taylors, the Christy Harrower, Michelle Timms, she was an idol of mine when I started playing, and so much respect for them. But I have covered and followed and fell in love with Belgian basketball.
Yeah,
so I'm going to have to pick Belgium.
I tried to take that out. I was like, because I get to chat with a few of them at EuroLeague women's stuff and what have you, and I'm like, there's a person, but I'm like, there's just something. We talked about it in the previous episode where you say you kind of don't bet against Spain. It's kind of similar with Belgium, right? You don't bet against Belgian women's basketball. Yeah. It's I've learned from my mistakes of thinking maybe their time has passed, maybe someone else will be. Yeah, it does feel like Belgium are going to go above Australia. Now, obviously, a lot of people look back and go, well, look what Australia did in the last World Cup. I'm not saying it was an anomaly. It was on their home court. It was obviously the swan song for Lauren. There was a lot leading into that kind of prompted it. It feels like they're kind of moving to a new phase now.
And it's a different team. There's different players on this one than there were 4 years ago.
Yeah.
There's a couple, but that's it. There's been a lot of changeover. So it's not the same.
And you have to
team.
get back to that habit of winning, right? You have to have that confidence that we're a team that wins. And I'm not sure Australia have that just yet. I think if you fast forward 4 years, and you go to Japan 2030, then you're going to have a different conversation. One, they're used to being in Japan a lot, they'll be used to that kind of Asia feel as well because they're now part of the Asia region. I think it's a different feel. I think right now, with it being in Germany, the travel will play its part as well. Whether we like it or not, it will. So there's lots of things for me that points to Belgium having the kind of lead on that. But it's definitely one I'm going to drag my butt out of bed for and get there for the early tip-off. I'm not going to lie. Absolutely. I'm definitely going to be there for the Belgium-Australia game. That should be, just having a look at that last day now. Yeah, that's the game of the day for me. Yeah, Italy-China would be good at the back end, but I think that's the game of the day for me on that last group game. So yeah, super interesting. And obviously on the second half of that, can they win it all? You're like, yes, they can. Do I think they will? No. I think I'm similar with you. I could see both of these teams in the semi-final though.
Yes.
I could see both of these teams having a scrap. This could even be that bronze medal game, right?
Yeah.
I could quite easily see this being a bronze. I haven't worked out brackets whether that can happen or whatever, but yeah, I could see this being a fight for the bronze medal quite easily. And again, I'd quite happily see that. I think that would be a really good game to watch for a bronze medal game as well. Okay, looking at our second question, our second team, Turkiye, they seem to be absolutely heading in the right direction. Watching them at Eurobasket last year, I only got to see them obviously in the kind of final phases in Athens. They just look to be clicking. Something seems to have moved with them where they're far more competitive and they almost have an expectation to win games. Have those big strides that they've made, how far can they go? How far do you think they are along that path to becoming one of the big hitters in international women's basketball?
I think the Federation has worked very hard to get them back playing at this level, competing at this level, and qualifying. It's been a while. And you mentioned they're kind of clicking. I think the biggest thing is their Turkish players are playing more on their professional teams than they had in the previous few years. Take out the generation of Ishal Albin, Yilmaz, because those players played. They were superstars, but that was also a team, that was playing in a semifinal of the 2014 World Cup, right? So, they've had after that, they after 2014, they kind of, in my opinion,
there was a dip for sure.
Yes. Not in the right way. And so I do, it's their Turkish players. They're playing more with more confidence. And, you see that, Uzun, a great European guard, not just for Turkey, like anywhere she plays, any professional team she plays on, she should start. She can start.
Yeah.
And you couldn't really say that about some of their players in the past. Obviously they've made some differences. Now they've gone ahead and given Kennedy Burke that naturalized,
becoming a naturalized
position.
Player, definitely.
Yeah.
It feels like a missing piece. Yeah, it feels like a missing piece. You look at the Turkish team and you feel that they've got the backcourt competitive with Çakır, with Alpriona, with Ozun. You kind of feel, and Erdogan coming through now as well. I think Erdogan is an absolute sleeper.
Yeah.
I think she's got a very, very bright future ahead of her. You feel that they've got some bigs with the likes of Senyurek, not ones that are going to be 20 and 10 every game, but they're going to be competitive. They're not going to be, defensively, they're going to be able to lock down. They're missing that kind of wing towards big feel that I think Kennedy Burke gives them. And I think it's a great option for them to bring Kennedy in, and watching how she's just fit in and been accepted. And she hasn't had to be the focal point either. I thought was really impressive.
Yeah, that's what they did before when they had McCowan, their other naturalized, the center. Every possession, the ball went to her. They don't play like that anymore.
Didn't work.
And that's what's more enjoyable to watch Turkey. And, they're aggressive. They're trying to do things defensively. They're running. Everyone's looking to score on the offensive end. And it's a lot more enjoyable basketball to watch, to be honest. So I think they're definitely taking the steps in the right direction. I don't know if they're there yet. They've made a step. They've qualified for the World Cup.
That's huge.
I think they're still a couple years away from, maybe medaling at a Eurobasket again. Let's put it, in my opinion.
Yeah, and again, the final bit obviously is talking about how far do you actually think they can go, and I'm similar with you. I can't see a Final Four kind of situation for them at the World Cup. I think if they can get, again, next year at the Eurobasket, if they can get themselves through to that kind of quarterfinal conversation and have a competitive game at the quarterfinal, it's another big step forward, really, and like you say, is it the following Eurobasket 29
Right.
when maybe they're going, you know what, actually they should be looking at a semi-final spot. They should be fighting for a medal at this point, because you feel like it's heading in that direction. The only thing I would say is I'm not seeing a huge number of junior Turkish teams making it through to the latter stages, particularly of the Eurobaskets. I think, I might be wrong now, the U16s, I think they're literally in the quarterfinal maybe now, or it might have
Okay.
just finished. So maybe that's starting to change. But I agree with the point you made as well. You can see that the Turkish Federation are investing.
Yes.
You can see that they're actually going, right, we're going to do this properly now. And you don't even need to look at the numbers or kind of the spreadsheet that sits behind it. Look at the people that are turning up. You know, Turkoglu is turning up to everything they do now and showing his face. That is a big statement from that federation, sending out their big hitter, their main man, to say, no, this is central. This is vital. And he cares.
Right.
Oh my God, does he truly care how that team play? The joy he takes from, seeing him at a Eurobasket in Athens. That was great to see, because that's what you need. You need buy-in from the people that hold the power. And they definitely look like they're doing that.
Yeah.
From Turkey's perspective then, they, again, every player, yes, I want to win gold. I want to get the trophy. But there's also in the back of your heads as a kind of individual, you're like, where are we happy? Where would Turkey be happy? Is it a quarterfinal spot? Do you think could you deem that a success for them at this point?
I think so. Yeah, I think that would be a good but also realistic goal. They should get out of the group phase, in my opinion. And, again, depending on who they cross over with, obviously you and I have our opinions of how we think it will
I am going to
end
make
up.
you do your bracket, by the way. I'm going to make you do your bracket before we get to Berlin.
So, I think they have a chance to win that qualification game, make it to the quarterfinals. After that, I can't see them continuing on. But I think it's a good step in the right direction. And losing is disappointing. Doesn't matter where it is, but a top 8 finish would be a big a big step for them and the federation. And I think it would, it shows that whatever the federation have done, it's paying off.
Yeah, 100%. You just hope that they stay with it. You just hope that their ambitions are realistic, that they don't go, right, if you don't make the semi-finals or whatever it is, we're going to hack back on budget. The one thing that also gives me hope with that is that you're seeing the likes of Galatasaray now on a club level go all in.
Yeah.
They are not messing about. They are not messing about at all. They have, taking someone like Ozun away from Fenerbahce, that's a signal of intent. That's telling you that they're not messing about no more, that they are going they're gunning for Fenerbahce's kind of a position as the perennial title winners. And obviously Fenerbahce haven't announced anyone yet. We know they're going to, and they'll come out with a killer roster, but I'm looking forward to those games already. And with those club teams now kind of going in an arms race, it tells you that Turkish women's basketball, I think, is at the start of what could be a really healthy period of time. And that's beneficial for world basketball generally. If a powerhouse like, Turkish basketball takes women's basketball more seriously, that's pretty much good for everyone. Okay, final team in the group. A really interesting one, and probably one for me and you that's the most difficult to maybe talk about, Puerto Rico, right? Because we don't have a huge amount of interaction with Puerto Rico on a regular basis, or a huge amount of their players. Now, clearly, looking at this group, they've got 2 potential semi-finalists, if not finalists, in Belgium and Australia. They've got a European powerhouse on the rise in Turkiye. It's going to be a tough task. I think that's fair to say. What are the most important things? What are the keys for them to be able to get out of this group?
They've played at Olympics. They've played at World Cups recently. They haven't had a lot of success at those tournaments. They've gone to them and they've come up with no wins typically, but they're still competitive. And I can tell you that they're going to play with a lot of heart. long time ago when I used to play basketball. Obviously played against Puerto Rico a lot. And,
Yeah,
that
I
is
bet you did
something
actually.
that, that is
Yeah,
something that, they never lacked.
yeah,
I forget their coach's name right now, but I think he's good. I think he's talented.
yeah.
Um, and invested because he's been there a really long time. I'm going to have to look it up and find out,
No, no, do,
make sure
do.
it's
It's
the
fine.
same guy.
Yeah.
Um, and they do have some young talent. Sant Antoni, who plays
Mm-hmm.
professionally in France, she's actually moving to Basketland this next
Oh, okay.
season. So,
That's exciting.
obviously she's skilled if the best team
Yeah.
in France are,
I love
went
you
out
dropping
and
that. I love
recruited.
you dropping that in the best team in France. Bring it on. All right. We see your loyalties. We know where you're at.
Have gone and recruited her. So again, typically Puerto Rico undersized, a little bit
Yeah.
smaller. They're gonna have to rely on guard scoring and, being aggressive, shooting a high percentage. But I think the fact that they're the only second team in the Americas outside the
Mm.
USA and then Puerto Rico who qualified for this
That's
shows
bizarre,
that,
right?
I mean, it's the way the ball bounces, right?
Yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
the fact that Brazil's not there, Canada's not there, but Puerto Rico is,
Mm-hmm.
maybe this is, we don't cover them as much, like you said,
Yeah.
compared to some of these other teams that you and I have seen a lot more in the last few years. So it'll be really interesting to see what they can do. Um, I just, I don't think they have enough talent, especially in this group. This is a tough group.
Yeah. When that draw came out, they must have been. The thing is, they're obviously in the lowest seeded pot, and that's always problematic anyway. Um, the thing, obviously, the thing prepping for this and getting my head into the kind of World Cup, I started looking back at some of the game tapes for the qualification tournaments, and they obviously hosted that qualification tournament. And I remember thinking at the time, sat in Lyon, and obviously we were time difference ahead, so it would be the next day we'd see them. And I saw those first few games, and I was like, Jesus Christ, Puerto Rico are out their depth. Because
Mm,
they got hammered. They got hammered by Italy to start with. Then I think maybe the second game was USA, I can't remember. And I was like, geez, they are really struggling to compete. And the thing that gives me actually heart for them going into this, they didn't quit. They didn't
right.
go, let's run this one out. Let's just kind of play the rest of the and we're done. They just doubled down and went, okay, we've taken a beating. We're going to stand back up again with a bloodied nose and we'll go again. And that's what gives me heart for the World Cup, because that's the important thing. If they do get a bloody nose in the first game, I don't think they're going to buckle and crack and kind of bail on
Hmm.
it. I think they're just going to go, right, let's go again, not a problem. Wipe
Yeah.
myself down and we'll be back in. And when you are an underdog, that is the key for me. It is, you don't need to win every game to get out of this group. Potentially
Right.
you need to win one.
One.
Probably the Turkiye game, right? That's the
Yeah.
game you would imagine that's the one they would look at and go, we don't need to necessarily beat Belgium or Australia. It's the Turkiye game that we need to really lock in on. And again, that's the last game in the group. It's actually on at the same time as the Belgium Australia game that we talked about. So if they can win that last game, that might be enough for them, you know.
Yep.
And that's what gives me heart, is you've seen them do it at their own qualification tournament, that they did have two really awful games, but they came back into it. And I think for me, outside of playing talent, because they definitely have, a level of playing talent, the depth might be not there, but obviously Garantes as well, phenomenal player on a day, can absolutely light it up and is problematic to guard.
Hmm.
I think that's the key, the fact that they're just going to show resilience and just fight for all three games. And at the end of the three games, then you look at the table and go, was it enough or not? That's what it comes down to. And I think that's what gives me a little bit more confidence about them. If I was just looking at them on paper, I'd be like, oh man, this is going to be a long 3 games for them. But
Right.
I have a little bit of heart in them, if I'm honest. I have a little bit of belief in them that maybe they can create some kind of upset.
Yeah. So it was a shout out to Coach Jerry Batista,
Ah, cool.
who he has been with them since 2014. He's taken them to a couple of Olympics, World Cups, and obviously the America Cup as well. So I think he's experienced. I do think his teams are prepared and can make adjustments. Um, Again, it comes down to talent and bench in a tournament like this, and
Mm,
you know even when you have a great team, not everyone, your starters aren't going to play great every day, even if you
yeah,
would love for them to be able to do it.
it's
At a
true.
World Cup, it's so hard. Other people have to step up. Do they have that kind of talent that can step up? I'll be very interested to find out because, to be one of 16 teams, there's a reason why they're there. There's a reason why they're there over some other teams from the Americas region. So it'll be very interesting to see.
Yeah, and the point you make there I find interesting as well, because obviously there's 12 players there. Now, some of them are established and have got their
Mhm.
careers firing pretty well. But this World Cup is also an opportunity for some of those players that are fresh out of college or still in college or trying to get to a higher domestic level to stand up and show out, right? The spotlight
Yeah.
is on. There are not many teams. There are 16 teams. I'm not going to do quick maths of 16 times 12, but there are only so many players there, and the world's eyes are on it. From a
Right.
scouting perspective, there's going to be scouts in Berlin, probably from most of the W teams. A lot of European teams will be sending their coaches there, or at least assistant coaches there. There is an opportunity. And you always find in one of these teams that's the underdog, there's a young player that just kind of goes, okay, I'm going to take my opportunity right now. I see this
Yeah.
is my opportunity. People aren't coming to watch me if I'm playing in, maybe it's the Puerto Rican domestic league. I'm not getting
Yeah.
those big coaches coming to see, here's my opportunity to show actually I'm a baller and I can play.
Yeah.
And you'll see a player step up. Because like you say, that's kind of what they need. They've got 2 or 3 established players. They need another 2 or 3 that are going to take this opportunity and make the most of it. If they can do that, then maybe they can get themselves out of this group. Okay, I'm going to push you again. You're 1, 2, 3, and 4. Where are you going? What's your order for this group?
Yeah. So I'm gonna go Belgium,
Mm-hmm.
Australia, Turkiye, and Puerto Rico.
Yeah, I'm absolutely spot on. I'm the same
Okay.
as you on that one. It's the top 2 are probably for me the most dodgy. Whether it's
Yeah.
Belgium or Australia at the top, I think outside of that, I think Turkey will definitely be in third. I think Puerto Rico will definitely be in fourth. I'd love to see maybe an upset somewhere along the lines in those games and them not go the way. I think it might all come down to that last Belgium Australia game to see who goes top.
Hmm.
And that is a lot to play for. Like I say, direct qualification to the quarterfinals is a really nice thing for both of those teams to be able to lock in. Okay, perfect. That wraps up episode 11. Our Group C review will be back tomorrow with episode 12, where we will jump into the final group, Group D, hosting USA, China, Italy, and Czechia. Make sure you tune in for that one as well. Thanks for listening or watching, and we'll be back very soon. Cheers.